All right, guys. So, patch time. This is going to be the February patch 2020 on the 27th, just squeaking it by at the end of the month, a couple days before the end. There's a lot of stuff here. Excuse me. I have it zoomed in, I guess, so you can see it better, but you can see there's a lot of stuff here. So I'm going to hit on the highlights. And particularly talk at length about the balance changes and any of the matchmaking changes or anything like that. But I'll try to, hit on everything. First, auto scouting. I am not a fan of it. I don't think that. I just don't think it's good for the game. I don't think that it's what Age of Empires should be doing. But that's a whole nother topic. It's here, it's in the game, so if you want to go do that, go do that. Anniversary event? I guess you can get some new profile icons or something. Sure, why not? You guys can go ahead and do that if you want. Some stability stuff was fixed, as well as some performance stuff. Here are some actual changes. The mangonels not firing in the direction they're facing is something that was a little weird, but they fixed that. This is a really nice one where trebuchets would not move to attack their out of range targets when using the old waypoint system. So say you had some trebuchets that were unpacked and you targeted something that was outside of their range, they would pack up, but then not move to attack the target you told them to. So they fixed that, so that's actually going to be really nice. Villagers will no longer drop resources as soon as they are reassigned to collect a new resource. Instead, they will maintain any collected resources until they begin the new task. This is a really minor thing, but it prevents you from wasting certain resources or whatever. Villagers tasked together from war will do so consistently instead of pondering the meaning of their existence. Oh, I didn't even read that. Gotta love these guys. Credit to these guys. They make the patch notes. They have some fun with them. Fixed an issue where the boar's path could not be blocked. Fixed an issue where units would occasionally ignore command waypoints. Spies, who cares? When multiple buildings are selected, technologies will now prioritize buildings that are idle or have no building queue over stacking up in a single building. That's nice. Defensive structures will now prioritize attacking enemy units over buildings. Oh, thank God, thank God. Oh, no more towers deciding to randomly attack houses over anything else. In rare circumstances, units can no longer be trained. Oh, okay, well, that was weird. Trebuchets will now remain unpacked when a villager is ordered to provide repairs while in the same selection group as said trebuchet. That is a nice little quality of life thing. With the foundation of an unfinished town center, I guess multi-queue didn't work there before. Will no longer inspire idle villagers to seek out tasks after saving the game. And just a few minor things. Okay, here's the meat and potatoes of the patch. I did know what I think about all of these changes beforehand, so I've had a little while to think about them. So hopefully I will be providing some sort of insight. Berbers, Genitor, now receive +1 Pierce Armor. Good change. Genitors are going to be good now, guys. Hide yo archers, hide yo skirms. The Genitors are coming for you. It's going to give them 4 base Pierce Armor in the Castle Age that is going to be the same as the Elite Skirmisher. So now that they deal bonus damage to Spearmen, like Skirmishers, they are going to just be almost strict upgrades of, Skirmishers that are just more expensive. But, that's pretty good. They have 75 HP or something like that in Castle Age. You can use them just to run down enemy archers. I mean, especially against civs like Britons and Mayans, you can definitely make Genitors pretty damn effective. Definitely, I think, going to be your go-to skirm option in the late game. Or at least starting in Castle Age. Feudal Age, you're still going to want to make skirmishers if you're in that sort of situation, because you can't make Genitors in Feudal Age. But once you get to Castle Age, I think you will want to make that switch over. Goths. Infantry are now 35% cheaper in all ages. This bonus previously applied only when you're in the Feudal Age. Oh boy, it's a Goth buff. So there are a lot of suggested changes that were thrown around here and there for Goths. This is definitely the most, I guess, innocuous change. It is a buff. It's not like a little quality of life thing. So it means you can do a 3 militia drush as Goths without having to gather any extra gold. If you want to make more than 3 militia, you still have to gather some amount of gold. And you still don't have supplies, but still, it's overall still good. If you're going for an arm rush with Goths, you now no longer have that conundrum where you're like, well, do I want to wait till Feudal Age to make the militia, but then it's going to be slower? You can now just make the militia in Dark Age and save all those resources right off the bat. Is it going to make Goths top tier? No, I don't think so. There are still civs that have just as strong, if not stronger, men-at-arm rushes, like, Japanese or Burmese or whatever. And Goths don't really have much of a follow-up. They have poor defenses. They still have no eco bonus. They're just going to be less awful. Just less awful. I don't think they're going to be good by any means. Khmer, the unique farming bonus is now disabled in full tech tree games. Cool. Why not? Hunters, Mongols. Reduce their work speed from 50 to 40%. Now, I didn't think this change was necessary. It was kind of, some people really liked it, some people didn't like it. Overall, Mongols are still going to have among the fastest uptimes in the game possible, along with like Lithuanians and Persians and whatnot. So, you're still going to be able to do all the normal Mongol stuff, right? Still going to be able to have super fast uptimes. You're still going to be auto-picking them on any maps with plenty of hunt. But it's just not as overbearing. You probably can't do any of, the 16 or maybe 17 pop-up times that were possible with Mongols back in ye old days of yesterday backwards. So you're probably going to be clicking up on, 19 pops. But, 19 pop, I would say, is standard for Mongols anyway, unlike Arabia. So it's a small nerf. I don't think it's going to be too big of a deal. It just prevents the more extreme early uptime effects of having lots of deer nearby. Mongols now have access to the Steppe Lancer and Elite Steppe Lancer units, and throwing in their Steppe Lancers also benefit from the plus 30% HP bonus that their Light Cav and Hussars get. So, this is definitely something that people asked for. Mongols kind of a steppe civ, so why wouldn't they have the Steppe Lancer? Well, the real reason is that initially Steppe Lancers were super broken, and they didn't want to screw the game up too much. So once they kind of realized, okay, what do Steppe Lancers, how do they fit into the game? Okay, we can give them to Mongols. Personally, I'd love to see Turks get them too, because Turks are also a steppe nomadic civ. That's totally what they are. But I'm fine waiting on that. Mongols definitely, they're the most famous steppe nomad civ. And getting that plus 30% HP bonus, pretty solid. Now, Steppe Lancers are pretty bad. They're, insanely broken on launch, and then they got nerfed, in 5 different ways, and then they became bad. With plus 30% HP, is that going to make them good? For Mongols in particular? It opens up their mid-game military options more, that's for sure. Remember, you are still missing that last armor upgrade. So I think, honestly, I don't know where you want to use Steppe Lancers anyway. Mongols, okay, they're going to have good Steppe Lancers, especially in Castle Age. So that's a little bit of a buff, since the Mongol Castle Age was fairly limited, but they're still pretty flimsy and don't do that much damage and have a really slow attack rate. So we'll have to see how this one plays out. I mean, it's something, right? It's more diversity for the civ. So I mean that's going to be nice. But overall, I would say that Mongols would rather just have their old hunt back. So I'd just say it's an overall nerf to Mongols. But I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference in terms of how viable they are. Persians increase the cost of researching Kemandarin, which is the trash bow. Castle Age unique tech crossbows don't cost gold. You guys, I'm sure, are all well aware of that. So it has been increased by 200 food and 100 gold. So it used to be 200, 200. Now it's 400, 300. Okay. Trash bows are still super super incredibly strong, man. I really think that they need to increase the wood cost per unit up to 70. But it'll make the transition a little bit harder. It's a definitely, it's a fair bit more expensive. So getting away with it in like mid game, if you're like already really low on resources, isn't going to be as viable. Or maybe late game even if you're low on resources, especially gold. But I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. Portuguese. The Feitoria increased the resources generated from 0.8 food, 0.8 wood, 0.45 gold, and 0.25 stone to double the food. A little bit increase. Was that 25% increase on the wood? Yeah, I'm not going to bother with the math on that one. A little under double the gold. I don't know. Not quite. It's like 2/3 or something. I don't know. And like a tiny bit more stone. The Feitoria is a fundamentally broken design concept, in my opinion. Anything that has an inevitability or like infinite resources, infinite units, anything like that, I think is just not something that is ever going to be balanced in Age of Empires. People saw how broken Malay fish traps can be in one of the tournament games recently with Viper and Hera, where Viper just sat on infinite fish traps and just could not possibly lose. Portuguese can actually do the same thing even better in the late game on like islands in particular. It's still going to be like island maps is still going to be the only real application of the Feitoria because it's still not that great in terms of gold income. But now that I say that, maybe late game Arabia too. I think okay, the map runs out of gold and stone first, right? In a 1v1. You never see these in team games, right? That's just, throw that out the window. But in a 1v1, or I guess a free-for-all, the map runs out of gold and stone first. At that point, you don't make Feitorias, because you're still probably better off just selling at the market. Just because Feitorias, they cost 250 gold, 250 stone to make, so that's already a pretty damn hefty upfront, cost. Especially since those are the resources that you're really trying to generate, right? However, also Portuguese get guilds, so that can help you with that market, selling stuff. But once the map starts to run out of wood, and that can happen in super long Arabia games or whatever map you're talking about, then you switch into Feitorias, kind of like on islands. It's just later, Or even if it's like you're running out of safe wood lines in a 1v1. Like, there is still wood there's still wood out on the map, but none of it's very safe and your villagers are constantly getting raided. Definitely just use the market, chuck down a Feitoria, and just laugh as your opponent can't actually do anything to stop it because they're super tanky. Like, I'm still not a big fan of the, design of this, but it's what we have here. It's definitely stronger. Tartars. I can never pronounce this civ name. Now have access to the Halberdier unit. So congrats, Tartars. You now have the worst Halberdiers in the game. You're still missing even the Castle Age armor. So you only get +1 defense max for your halbs. I mean, it'll help against melee like units, I guess, because the melee armor doesn't really matter that much, but like awful halberdiers are still better than no halberdiers, and at least you have squires. So is that going to make the civ great? Not really. Civ's still fairly mediocre all around, but they're not horrible. But it's a little buff. All right, Teutons. As a civilization bonus, farms are now 40% cheaper, was 33%. Now, I told you I knew about these changes ahead of time, and I did, but I never actually calculated. Hello, Heater! Glad you can always make an appearance in my videos. Okay, so what is it? 0.6 times 60 is 36. So 60 minus 30. 36. I can punch in my calculator, right? Or no, it's not 36, it's 24. So you save 4 more wood per farm. There we go. There's some on YouTube recording math. Yeah. It's a little bit of a boost. Sure, why not? This is the big one, guys. Starting in Castle Age, barracks units gain +1 armor. This is like, I'm not going to give myself full credit, but I definitely was a big one pushing this change and the next change. It makes them more of an infantry civ. Like Teutons, they were technically an infantry civ since forever. I think now they're like an infantry and defensive civilization, or however they classified that in DE, but they never had any infantry bonuses. All they had were the Teutonic Knight as their unique unit, which was really situational, and they had crenellations, I guess, but that never really mattered. Now you're starting to look at situations where it's going to be real hard to make Eagle Warriors work against Teutons. Like, those guys are going to be some tanky swordsmen. They're not going to be Bulgarian level tanky in the late game, but they are going to be good, and it does affect halberdiers, and Teutons also get champions, whereas Bulgarians do not. Overall, I'd prefer this, to be honest. Your halbs are going to be much better in the late game in halb battles, but also I think especially against light cav is going to be really nice, or, hussars or whatever. It's a pretty solid buff to Teutons, and I think that combining with their now even cheaper farms, if you're going for like a big swordsman or pikeman, monk, siege, castle age thing work, like you can make that work like a lot more easily. I think Teutons are definitely a very legitimate civ. Like they're already good on closed maps like Arena or BF, but now they're going to be, I think, even more of a consideration. Are they going to be top tier on Arabia? No. Still not top tier, but at least like bumping them up to maybe like a B tier. And finally, and perhaps most anticipatedly, Vietnamese economic upgrades no longer cost wood. This is something like, there have been so many eco bonus ideas for Vietnamese thrown out there. This is one that I kind of, alongside Trirem, were advocating for a while. It's just a nice little bit of savings. In Feudal Age, it means that your double bit axe and horse collar don't cost any wood. That's a 125 wood saved right there. Also affects your, gold mining, stone shaft mining. I do not know if it affects wheelbarrow or handcart. That I do not know. Let's check that at the end of the video. We'll go back and check that. But Vietnamese, they're definitely now going to be a consideration for land maps. Kind of want to see how this plays out, how much of a bonus this really is, but I think it's going to bring them up from being, like, really, really mediocre to being, like, at least alright. Kind of like Teutons here. Whereas Goths, I still like, are probably going to be in the dumpster. But what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to make a brand new tier list video for 1v1 Arabia. So definitely look for that in the upcoming days. There have been enough balance changes since launch where my old tier list doesn't really make any sense anymore. So I'll be talking about all of this stuff more in depth in an upcoming video. Campaigns, just some bug fixes. Well, I guess since I do the campaign videos, I should probably talk about them. The Return of the Dragon, units garrisoned in captured castles and docks can now be ungarrisoned from the building. Okay, so if you had a units garrison in like one of the castles or docks when it got taken over by your enemies or allies, I guess you can now ungarrison them and they're not just sitting there uselessly. Gajamada, the oath to nullify... It's unify. Well, that's a typo. It's the oath to unify Nusantara. You're not nullifying it. Fixed an issue where completing the scenario objectives would not trigger the completion of the mission. It worked fine when I recorded it. Yeah, you guys have seen that on... that one's on YouTube already, so I don't know. And Swords of 4, Blood and Betrayal. Text will no longer overlap the images during the opening slideshow. Well, you guys will have to see the old version when that goes live, because I've played that already. Achievements, that was fixed. There's still definitely some relevant things to talk about. This isn't all that relevant. Oh, right. As one of the most popular maps when playing the Regicide game mode, we wanted to add some extra flavor to the Fortress map. This shouldn't shake things up too much, but we welcome any feedback if it turns out to be disrupted. Players now begin with Castle regardless of game mode. Originally, only castles would spawn when playing Regicide. Oh, I like that. I like that. Gold Rush has been changed. Forests are now split into smaller patches. This is weird because, like, they're changing a lot of random stuff, but it's not in the map pool anymore, which is what I am trying to get to. Also, Team Islands, that's also not in the map pool anymore. So let's just ignore that. this is just a bunch of lobby stuff for the most part. Ah, here we go. This is the last thing I wanted to talk about. Ranked map rotation. Alpine Lakes. Oh no. This map, guys, just pick Indians. Just pick Indians every single time. You have a bunch of fish nearby your town center. The ponds are too small to dock. I mean, you guys can see it, but yeah, not a fan, not a fan, not a fan. Just pick Indians. Arabia is the same, Arena's the same, BF's the same. Golden Pit instead of Gold Rush. I think Golden Pit's a better version of Gold Rush, to be honest. I feel like it's less imbalanced in terms of gold positioning, and well, instead of there being like a hill with all the gold, there's now an indent pit with all the gold. So there is a strategic disadvantage to you going to get the gold in the middle of the map, as opposed to you getting a strategic advantage as well as a massive resource advantage, so it's less snowbally, which I like. Hideout being added. There are now 9 maps as opposed to 8. It's a pretty good map, Kind of plays out like Arena, but you can be a bit more aggressive, so you can go for the super aggressive civs, you can go for the more classic Arena civs. Yeah, just a solid, more closed defensive map. Medi now being replacing Team Islands. Good map, definitely. I would kind of honestly like there to be like an Islands and Medi. I think they're kind of different, but any water civ is going to be good. Go for your Persians, your Italians, Japanese, Malay, that sort of thing. They're all going to be good. Mega Random's the same, and Nomad is the same. Also, there is now increased bans, so you can now have up to 4 bans for 1v1s, and you can now have 2 bans for 2v2s, and you can have 1 ban for 4v4s. So that should, you can be a little bit more selective with what you want to do. This is all stuff that is not especially relevant, and that should be wrapping it up. So now, the last thing I want to do is I want to test the Vietnamese thing. Alright guys, so I actually made a bit of a mistake. I was still on the beta that we use to cast Hidden Cup, so it didn't actually get the patch. So now we are in the patch, and I'll cut that from the video, but Wheelbarrow is affected, so you won't have to pay the resources, the wood for Wheelbarrow or Handcart. Well, I assume Handcart. So that's going to be nice. Also, here's Alpine Lakes. You can see it's like an auto-pick Indian map. Like, no reason to not pick Indians. There are all these juicy fish here, but the ponds are too small to ever dock. So, yeah, just pick Indians here and, be on your merry way. Alright, so that is going to be it, guys, for this balance update. Like I said, I will also be doing a new tier list video for 1v1 Arabia, so be on the lookout for that. I will also link the changes in the video description, so those will be available for you to read in their entirety. But yeah, hope you guys all enjoyed. I do think these changes are mostly in the positive, and yeah, see you guys next time.